Hello people, and welcome to Crypto Exposed. Is Noety right? Did Ripple lie about working with banks? Okay guys, let's get into this one. So, I did actually intend to do this on the back of the debate that he had with Mikkel, because this was where I heard this from, and I'll be honest with you, it was just one of those things that escaped my mind at the time. I mean, the video that I did on that debate was almost an hour, so I covered a lot of things, and to be honest with you, this is kind of something I want to cover on its own anyway. And yeah, like one of the things that Noety was saying during that debate with Mikkel that I just wanted to kind of touch on here is that he feels that Ripple lied about, them going after banks and things like that, and now they've just pivoted away from that kind of stuff. And so he feels, XRP holders should be angry at Ripple because they've been lied to and have basically been misled. And yeah, I wanted to get into that subject because I do think there are people who feel this way, and I think it's an interesting topic to discuss. So let's get into this then. Do we feel that Ripple has lied to us in regards to, them saying that, they're going to be going with banks and, that's going to be their main use case and things like that? Because recently there's been an interview that David Schwartz has put out where he's basically said banks won't be Ripple's success story. I've covered it already, so I'm not going to go too much into detail about it right here. But the long story short is, he's basically saying that banks are very slow to move when it comes to actually adoption of the technology and stuff like that. Like, they get these press releases and they sound good and stuff, but banks are not really quick to move with new technology. They like to play it safe. They don't like to just quickly adopt these kind of things. And so he doesn't feel that banks will be Ripple's success story. Now, he has recently come out and said that people have misconstrued what he said. However, he did also say in that same tweet, he said, the thing that you've misconstrued it with, I would probably also agree with as well. So it's a bit of a weird one because he's like clarified what he meant, but then he said, but the thing that you guys are thinking it is, I would probably also agree with that. So it's like, well, so really that still counts then, right? What we think you're saying is also relevant. So it didn't really clear up anything for me because he, kind of backtracked on that anyway and said, yeah, I'd probably agree with that too. So it doesn't really change anything. So this is my thing though. To be honest with you, I don't think that Ripple misled us. I'll be honest with you, and I'm going to tell you why. I don't think that this is a thing where Ripple lied to us saying, this is what we're going to do, this is what we're going to do, this is what we're going to do. I think that was Ripple's genuine intentions, and I think this is not a thing where they just lied to get money, to get people invested or anything like that. I think that was what the intended use case was. This was their intended target base. And they just started to realize, hey, this probably isn't going to work so well with banks. Like, maybe we need to look at smaller banks and things like that, because there's a few things that's come out about ODL, and this is like what some of the things that people don't understand, right? When Ripple had the partnership with MoneyGram, that wasn't so great, right? It wasn't as successful as people think it was. Like, there was actually issues, like MoneyGram were losing money doing the doing the transfers via XRP. Why is this the case? Well, what you've got to understand is when you're doing exchanges, right, via XRP, while it's great because it's being utilized as a bridge currency, so it's transferring currency instantly and cheaply, there are fees associated with the cost. Why? Well, you've got to think about the trading pairs, right? So you've got to think, let's say you're trading, let's just say pounds to dollars, right? So you've got the trading pair that the pound goes into XRP, and then it goes from XRP into the dollar. So you're talking about two trading pairs where normally it's just the pound to the dollar. So you actually add in a bit more fees associated with that, right? And so this was one of the issues. And it was basically costing them. It was basically costing them money. Now the other side of this is also, for big banks, when it comes to like Nostro-Vostro accounts, which is one of the things that XRP could eliminate, because they wouldn't need Nostro-Vostro accounts anymore if they've got XRP that they can utilize as a bridge currency, because they wouldn't need these other accounts with other currencies in there, right? Because they don't need the other currencies, because XRP will automatically convert the currency into whatever desired currency they need it to. But the issue for that is, like, the big banks make money through Nostro Vostro accounts. Why? Because smaller banks can't afford to have Nostro Vostro accounts. So what do? They pay the big banks to be able to use their Nostro Vostro accounts. So for the bigger banks, yes, it is dormant capital laying around, but they're actually making money off of it. So for them, it's actually a nice little side hustle. So for the bigger banks, they're not going to be as keen to want to give that up anyway, right? So it's really the smaller banks who are going to benefit from this, because for them, it's like, oh, great, I can use XRP now. I don't need to keep paying this extortionate fee to these big banks for Nostro Vostro accounts anymore. This is great. So they're going to be the ones who are a bit more quicker to adopt to using XRP than the bigger banks. And so I just think this has been more of a thing of Ripple came out, they had their intentions of what XRP was. They thought it was going to be, this huge thing that was going to, change the world and whatnot. And, they've had things like the lawsuit that's come out that's affected them. They've had things where, they've done the MoneyGram partnership, which wasn't as successful as they thought it would be. They've tried to do things like AMMs and, what was it? The liquidity hub, which is no longer a thing anymore. They've done all the things that they've tried to, make a success out of XRP with. And I just think they've just realized, hey, this isn't quite going the way we thought it would go. So yes, we're now pivoting to other things because we don't want to just keep putting our eggs in one basket, because if this doesn't work out, or if it's going to take way longer, then it's going to take us way longer to make XRP successful. So let's look at other things we can do to bring value to XRP then. Let's look at the AMM. Let's look at stablecoins. Let's look at smart contracts. Let's look at all these things that could increase developer activity, that could increase value, that could increase activity. And so I think to say that, Ripple misled us and stuff like that intentionally. And look, who knows? Maybe they did. I can't say for sure, but I don't think that was their intention. I think they really genuinely believed when they first discovered, ODL, this use case for XRP, I think they genuinely thought they had something that was going to be, incredible and change the world. Now, that's not to say that that can't still happen over time, but this isn't going to be, it's not going to be the overnight success that they thought it was going to be. I think they thought once they showed people this technology, they were just going to have them in the bag. Everybody was going to want to use it. It was all going to be great. And I think they've realized, okay, it's not quite going to work like that, right? And there are things that maybe we hadn't completely foreseen at the time, which could also cause issues as to why this wouldn't work as successfully as before. There's still a few things that we need to iron out, and they need, bigger liquidity pools and things like that. They need more liquidity and more adoption and stuff like that. So there's these examples where we can see it wasn't going to be as quick as what they thought. And even if you go on David Schwartz's X profile, his banner, it says something along the lines of, when a startup company was making disruptive technology, they soon realized the cost of it's something along the lines of, when a startup company first comes out with this great technology, they realize the cost of creating disruptive technology, something along those lines. And obviously, they're referring to the whole SEC lawsuit because, they've been attacked left, right, and centre due to, the lawsuit. And that's another factor in it, right? They didn't expect the whole SEC thing to be coming after them. And let's be honest, even now, they're still not giving up. They're still on their case about that. And so, even that kind of thing, I do think that is because of the whole disruptive nature of XRP. I do think that's a fair thing to say. I think that's one of the reasons why XRP was targeted. And so, yeah, I do think this is a thing where they're pivoting because, one, it's not been as successful as they thought it would be, but also, they've had, spanners thrown in the works, right? They've had the SEC trying to get in their way. So they've had hurdles that they've had to overcome. And so I don't think it's necessarily fair to say that they intentionally misled, because I don't think that's the case personally. I just think it's a thing where they've realized that, hey, this isn't quite been what we thought it would be. So yes, we have had to look at other things, but the reason why we're doing these other things is to bring value to XRP ultimately. Because again, this is the thing. People look at this they're pivoting and stuff. You got to understand, if anyone wants to bring value to XRP, it's Ripple, right? They hold the escrow. So the more value they can get to XRP, the bigger their balance sheet is, the richer of a company Ripple is. So it's only going to make sense that they want XRP to be successful. That's why when people say like, like just abandon it and stuff like that, it's like, you do understand that if they do that, that's really going to mess up their business, because their main funding right now is selling XRP. So like, if they was to just abandon XRP altogether, they're not going to be in the best of situations. So it's not to say that they couldn't do that, but it's not really going to bode well for them if they did, right? Like, it's not going to be the best move for them, and they're going to lose a lot of value in the main asset that they hold, right? And so I don't think it's a thing where they've done it purposefully. I think it's just been more of a thing of, we're pivoting because we're realizing that some of the things that we had and some of the things that we thought are not going to quite materialize the way that we thought it would be. That's my opinion. Now, the other thing that I just wanted to get into, because this is something that he discussed, and as soon as I saw this, I was like, let me look into this, because I was quite intrigued when he said this. And note he said, Saab121, he's like, you need to look into this because this is something that's holding crypto back, and Chris Larsen is funding this. And I was like, what? So I thought, let me look into it. So what is Saab121? Okay, so I've got a quick breakdown here. Saab121 advised these financial institutions that if they hold crypto on behalf of customers, in brackets e.g. centralized exchanges, banks, etc., they should report their customers' crypto as a liability on their balance sheet and include in notes to their financial statements a clear disclosure of the nature and amount of crypto. Okay, so in a nutshell, what are we talking about with that? That's just basically making life difficult, right? Because, for example, when it comes to crypto, like, you can have exchanges where, like, people have got accounts where they've not even really done KYC and stuff like that, right? So it's like trying to have, balances of people's cryptos and things like that. It's very difficult because they don't have everybody's full information. And so that was basically making it more difficult for banks and exchanges to deal with crypto. That was making it very difficult. That's the long and short of it, right? And so I was looking into this and I was thinking, okay, so like, what, Chris Larsen was supporting this, like he was funding this? And I was looking into it a bit deeper and I thought, okay, let's see what's going on here. So I've looked into it. I can't see anything that says anything specific about Chris Larsen like funding this. And I was thinking, well, that makes sense because obviously he works with Ripple. So why would he want to support something that's going to hold back his company? Now, from what I've seen, it would seem to me that what he's talking about is that Chris Larsen is funding Kamala Harris. He's giving money over to the Democrats. And I think that's what he's talking about here. And this is where I have to say again, like Mikkel made a point during this debate and he says, some of the things that he's saying is a bit dangerous. And this is an example of that, because if you just listen to the way Noty said it, it sounds like Chris Larsen is specifically funding this idea, this incentive, right? But that's not the case. From what I can gather, it would seem that Chris Larsen is funding Democrats, and because it was Democrats who put this through, he's basically saying by default, Chris Larsen is funding this. Now, look, I get people's views in this regard, and I'm not here to talk politics. Plus, I'm UK based. I'm not based in America. But I'm just going to say this, right? When it comes to Chris Larsen, supporting the Democrats, this is the way you've got to look at it, and this is the thing that you've got to understand, right? Okay. If you're someone who, let's just say, for example, if you're someone who's like always been a Democrat, or the morals of Democrats are everything that you would want, right? So all things that you think about in life in terms of like trying to support jobs, industries, schools, gun control, all these kinds of things, right? Let's just say Democrats is in line with your beliefs. But then you've got this one thing, which is crypto. That's different. The position you're in now then is, what do you choose, right? Do you completely change your mindset and go over to being a Republican because of the one thing that you've got an issue with? Or do you stick with your democratic beliefs and ignore the one thing that could really help in terms of the company that you're with, right? And look, to me, there's no right or wrong answer here, right? It just comes down to what ultimately you want to go with, and that's a personal decision. So while I can understand people being angry that Chris Larsen is, spending money to support Democrats, like I do get it, but at the same time, like Chris Larsen could be looking at it as, look, like, yeah, the whole thing with crypto hasn't been great, but my hope is that that's going to change, which is what he said. And also, like, everything else is all in line with me being a Democrat. Like, everything else, I believe, you know, so I'm just not willing to, like, change my whole voting stance on one thing. I'm not a one issue voter. And in all fairness, like, that's his choice. You know, whether I like it, whether you like it, whether anybody else likes it or not, that's just his choice, and that's fair. And the other thing I will say is, like, people saying that, like, this means that Ripple going against, going against their own, like, best interest. That doesn't make sense, because again, that's not going to help them. And also, Ripple have been funding, John Deaton, which is, you know, he's going for, Elizabeth Warren's position, and he's a Republican. So we can see that although, you know, one person within the company is personally going with Democratic views, Ripple as a company are supporting Republican views. So we can see there's a difference here. And so this is where I do have to say you have to be a bit careful with the way you word things, because the way that came across in the debate is like, you know, like Chris Larsen is specifically trying to fund this thing to hold back crypto. And I was just like, let me look into that, because like, if it was true, I'd cover it. Like, you know, if this was a genuine thing, I'd say, yeah, like, he's right. Like, he's absolutely right here. But the more I've looked into it, it seems that this is more just, you know, Chris Larsen supporting the Democrats, which, you know, as I just said, like, at the end of the day, it's not as simplistic as just choosing the one thing that's just going to benefit your pockets, right? Some people might say, well, yeah, okay, that would benefit my company and help me make more money, but there's more things to life than money. Like, at the end of the day, I would rather still vote Democrat, because I believe more in the, you know, Democratic ideology and the other things that they're going to do. So I believe in that more than just trying to push my company to make more money. So I'm still willing to vote Democrat, right? Which, again, there's no right or wrong answer to this. That just comes down to politics, beliefs, and things like that, the way it's been brought up, etc. It's not something that we can really argue on there. So I thought I'd just clear that up, because this is something that I did see within that debate as well. But yeah, if you want my opinion, do I think that Ripple purposely misled us? No, I don't. And at the end of the day, like, it's still early days in terms of like ODL and stuff. This isn't me saying that ODL can't be a success. I just think it's going to take a lot longer than what people anticipate and what even Ripple anticipated. And I think that's why they've pivoted. I think that's why they are looking at other things, because they've realized like this isn't going to be a quick thing. This is going to take a while. Like, it's not going to be an overnight success. So let's start looking at other things. Like, what else can we do to bring value to XRP? And I think that's absolutely fine. I think that's, you know, that's what you should do. You shouldn't be putting all your eggs in one basket, because if it doesn't work out, then what do you do? Right? At that point, you kind of like, you've left it too long. And this is something that, you know, David Schwartz admitted. He said, hey, like, we dropped the ball. We went with what we thought was going to work, and we thought wrong. So now we look at other ways. Like, he said this himself. So, you know, like, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, there's nothing wrong with acknowledging that and then trying to look at other ways, like saying, okay, well, what else can we do now then? What can we do to kind of like catch up as well now, you know? So to me, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But yeah, I don't think they misled us. I just think it's a difference of understanding, like, hey, we've got to pivot here because this isn't working the way we expect it to. But let me know your thoughts. Thank you very much for watching this. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And hit that bell. Take care.